There is a woman named Nadia who made $26,000 a year working the front desk at a veterinary clinic in Ohio. And after she paid her rent and her utilities and her phone bill and gas and groceries and the minimum payment on one credit card, she had just $11 left every 2 weeks. $11, and that is not a typo, and that is not an exaggeration. That was her actual, real, everyday life. And if you asked most financial experts what Nadia should do, they would tell you the same recycled thing they always say, which is cut out the lattes and cancel your subscriptions and stop eating out. But Nadia did not buy lattes, and she had no subscriptions, and she had not eaten at a restaurant in 4 months. So, what exactly do you do when every single budgeting tip on the internet assumes you have money left over and you simply do not? That is what this video is really about, and it is not the recycled advice you have heard 1,000 times, but the real and surprisingly effective strategies that people at the bottom of the income ladder use to save money when saving seems mathematically impossible. And by the end of this video, one of these strategies might change the way you think about your financial life, even if your bank account is near zero right now. Here's the thing. Nobody in personal finance wants to admit out loud, and that is that budgeting does not work when there is nothing left to budget. If your income minus your essential expenses equals zero, then no spreadsheet and no app and no envelope system is going to create money that does not exist. Yet the entire personal finance industry is built on one assumption, which is that your problem is behavior and that you're spending too much, and that if you had more discipline, you would be fine. But for the more than 1/3 of Americans who cannot cover a $400 emergency expense, according to the Federal Reserve, it is not a discipline problem at all. It is a math problem. Does that mean saving is impossible? And the answer is no, but it means we need to rethink what saving looks like when you are barely surviving. Because saving at the bottom does not look like putting $500 a month into a high-yield savings account, but instead it looks like something smaller and scrappier and more creative than the mainstream advice will ever teach you. Let me show you what I mean with a guy named Terrence who drove for a rideshare company and brought home about $1,900 a month after expenses, and his rent alone was $950, so he was drowning. But Terrence did something strange, because every time he got a cash tip, no matter if it was $2 or $10, he physically separated it and put it in a sealed envelope in his glove compartment, and he never counted it, and he never touched it. At the end of 3 months, Terrence opened that envelope and found $340 sitting there. $340 will not change your life, but for Terrence, it was the first time in 4 years he had any savings at all, and psychologically, that changed everything. This is what researchers call the invisible money effect, and it works because money you never see is money you never spend, and it is one of the most powerful savings tools for people who feel like they have nothing to save. The psychology is simple, because money, when it is visible, your brain treats it as available, but when it is hidden, your brain adjusts and you spend what you see and you adapt to what you have. And research supports this, because studies found that when low-income workers had even small amounts set aside before receiving their paycheck, their spending dropped, but their quality of life did not change because they unconsciously adjusted. So the first real strategy is not about how much you save, but about when and where the money disappears. If your employer offers direct deposit splitting, where your check goes to 2 accounts, then even $5 a paycheck into an account you have no debit card for can start this process. If you do not have that option, cash methods like the one Terrence used work for the exact same reason, because the money becomes invisible. But here's where things get interesting, because there is a second category of savings that most low-income earners overlook, and it is not about putting money away, but about stopping money from leaking out in ways you cannot see. Let me introduce you to Sonia, who was a single mom making $31,000 a year as a medical billing clerk, and one evening she went through 3 months of bank statements, line by line, and what she found made her stomach drop. She was paying for a gym membership she forgot about, and $8 a month for a cloud storage upgrade she did not need, and her car insurance had crept up $40 a month over 2 years, and her phone plan was $15 more than the same plan her carrier was offering new customers. In one evening, Sonia made 4 phone calls and canceled 2 things, and her total savings came to $87 a month, which is over $1,000 a year, and she did not change a single thing about her daily life. This is what I call the expense audit, and it is probably the single highest return hour you can spend on your finances if you are barely making it. Here is the thing about being broke, because when money is tight, you stop looking at your bank statements because they stress you out, and that avoidance is actually very expensive. Companies count on you not noticing small charges, and insurance companies count on you not calling to renegotiate, and your phone carrier is betting you will never check if a cheaper plan exists. One phone call to your car insurance mentioning you are comparing rates can save $20 to $50 a month, and one call to your internet provider asking for their promotional rate can knock off 15 to 30. And 1 hour of uncomfortable calls can free up more than a month of skipping meals. And that matters because when you're living at the edge, saving is not about percentages, but about finding specific dollars being wasted and redirecting them. And by the way, if this is shifting how you think about money, do me a favor and hit that like button right now, because it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. Now let me tell you about a strategy that most financial experts are afraid to recommend. Most savings advice focuses entirely on the expense side of the equation, which means spend less and cut more and sacrifice. But there's a mathematical floor to how much you can cut, because you cannot reduce rent below the cheapest option, and you cannot spend zero on groceries. And once you've cut everything, the only variable left is income. And I know make more money sounds tone deaf when you're exhausted from working full time, but hear me out, because this is not about hustling into burnout, but about strategic temporary income stacking with one goal, which is creating a savings buffer so you can breathe. A woman named Renee worked as a teacher's aide making $24,000 a year, and she was stuck. So she picked up weekend babysitting for one family on Saturday afternoons for 4 hours at $15 an hour, which came to $60 a week or $240 a month. She didn't do it forever because she only did it for 5 months, and in 5 months she saved $1,200, and that $1,200 became her emergency fund. And that emergency fund meant the next time her car needed a repair, she did not have to put it on a credit card at 24% interest. That's the part nobody explains well enough, because the reason low-income people stay broke is not just because they earn less, but because without any buffer, every unexpected expense becomes debt, and debt has interest, and interest makes you poorer, and it becomes a cycle. The only way to break that cycle is to create even a thin cushion between you and the next emergency. Even $500 in savings can be the difference between a setback and a catastrophe. And that's not motivational fluff, because Federal Reserve research has shown that modest emergency savings is one of the strongest predictors of financial stability among low-income households, even stronger than income level itself. Now, here is something that genuinely surprises most people when they hear it for the very first time. Billions of dollars in government benefits go completely unclaimed every single year. And it is not because people do not qualify, but simply because they have no idea these programs exist, or they assume they will not qualify when they actually do. Programs like SNAP for food assistance and the Earned Income Tax Credit, and LIHEP for utility bill assistance, and the Lifeline program for discounted phone and internet service all have income thresholds that are higher than most people think. Take the Earned Income Tax Credit alone, because for qualifying families with 3 or more children, it can be worth up to roughly $8,000, and the IRS estimates that about 1 in 5 eligible taxpayers never claim it. That means there is essentially free money sitting there as a direct deposit from the government that millions of people leave on the table every year because they do not know about it or think it is too complicated to apply. A man named Calvin worked at a warehouse making $28,000 a year, and he never filed for the Earned Income Tax Credit because he assumed he made too much to qualify. But one day, his coworker told him to check anyway, and he qualified and received a tax refund of nearly $4,000 that had been available to him the whole time. Here is my challenge to you. Before you close this video, go search for a benefits eligibility calculator online and spend 10 minutes entering your information because you might be shocked at what you qualify for, including utility assistance and food assistance and tax credits and childcare subsidies and low-cost internet programs from companies like Comcast and AT&T. Because you are already paying for these programs through your taxes, and not using them is like paying for insurance and never filing a claim. Now, let me bring this whole story full circle back to where we started. Remember Nadia, the woman with $11 left after every paycheck? Well, she started with the invisible money method and opened a second bank account with no debit card attached and set up an automatic transfer of $3 every payday. Then she did the expense audit and found $22 a month she was losing to a protection plan on a phone she already paid off and an old subscription she forgot about. Then she checked her benefits eligibility and discovered she qualified for a utility assistance program that reduced her electric bill by about $35 a month. Within 2 months, her monthly savings went from zero to about $60. And that's not going to make her rich, and she knows that. But for the first time in her adult life, she had something between her and disaster, and she had a gap and a cushion and breathing room. And that feeling of shifting from believing you will never get ahead to knowing you have even a little ground beneath your feet is worth more than any budgeting app will ever give you. If you're living on the edge right now, I want you to know that the fact saving money feels impossible does not mean you're failing, because it means the system was not designed with you in mind. But these strategies of hiding small amounts and auditing your leaks and stacking income for a short time and claiming every benefit you are owed, they work. And they don't work overnight and they don't work dramatically, but they work steadily, and steady is enough. If this video helped you, or if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, because I make videos like this every week with real strategies and no fluff for people who want to take control of their money without being talked down to. I'll see you in the next one.